Welcome back, everybody. You have returned to the Game Development live stream. And not only have you come back, Zlatko has joined me again. Zlatko, I think it was about 5 months ago, right around GDC timeframe, that you were last on here. So, of course, we're talking about AI and crypto adjacent stuff. So the entire universe has basically changed in only 5 months. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But thanks everybody for tuning into this again. We are live. I want to remind everybody, especially as some of you trickle in there, the first few of you who are eager enough to jump into this live stream literally seconds after it appeared on X, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, etc. Ask your questions. That's why we do this live. So we're going to be talking about some really cool subjects today. And yes, there's going to be a code. So all of you code stalkers that are looking for the code, ready to climb up our leaderboard for the upcoming TGE airdrop, you're in the right place. I'm not going to tell you when I'm going to give the code, but it's definitely going to happen during this conversation. So my name is Jon Radoff. I am one of the founders and the CEO of Beamable. Beamable is a live services infrastructure company. What does that mean? All of that stuff that happens in the cloud, whether it's multiplayer servers or economic systems, social systems, tournaments, events, chat, all of that stuff needs tech. We are that tech. We've helped around 100 games already launch live. Some of the biggest ones you've probably heard of. FIFA Rivals shipped a few weeks ago. And this week, Pudgy Party. So those are some names that mean a lot in Web3. But hey, we've got a lot of Web2 games as well. Everything from Star Trek to The Office to all kinds of different games on there across all platforms. So that's what we do. But I like to use this space to talk to people who are in game development, working on tech pieces, working on games. And that's why Zlatko has come back. Now, Zlatko, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself a little bit. Not everyone may have been watching 5 months ago. And in fact, our audience has super exploded since then. Our active community in Beamable, it's like 1.2 million active users per month. So we get a lot
Not to brag
for these things, and we look and people are definitely chasing down these codes because they know the airdrop is coming. So you've already got a couple hundred people that have tuned in here. But let's reintroduce you to our folks. Zlatko, before we get into all the cool stuff you're working on, what got you to this point in time, in this timeline?
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for having me again. I enjoyed it last time a lot. And yeah, what got me here is meeting you all over the place in the past few months, Toronto Consensus, last week Gamescom. And yeah, so my name is Zlatko Stjepanović, former pro gamer turned founder, and yeah, enjoying games since I'm 4 years old. And so, but since I'm building Lussa, there's not much time for gaming, barely hopping into our own stuff. So yeah, hopefully within a few years, I will have more time again to step into my gaming shoes or gloves. Yeah, what is Lussa? Lussa, we're building a platform for game developers to build games faster, or to build games with no code, basically. Right now, we are in an MVP for kind of Atari games. You can have Space Invaders, Pac-Man, or a very basic Donkey Kong within 5 to 15 minutes. Also like blockchain abstraction available, full Web2 experience. Yeah, and we're building, as you see on the website here, it's our trailer from last year. The game has moved a lot since then. And yeah, we're building an FPS on Unreal 5 with a post-apocalyptic universe or Earth scenario. And yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for everyone tuning in.
Yeah, awesome. So, Zlatko, let's talk about some of the really new exciting stuff you're doing. You just touched on it. So people can make a game in, did I hear you say 10 or 15 minutes?
Yes. So 2 days ago,
That's vibe coding, right? That vibe coding is probably a term that almost everybody has heard at this point.
Yes, of course. So
what makes this different than all the other like rando vibe coding things that are now out there?
So how it's different? It's built by us, first of all.
I love it already.
No, joking a little bit. 2 or 3 days ago, my technical co-founder wrote the message. He said, "Hey, time for a call. I need to show you something." So we hopped on a call. He showed me this whole new website, Lussa AI, and he said, "Let's create a game." And he started basically, we recreated like a Minesweeper game in 2 or 3 minutes, which was kind of amazing. And I said, let me try that myself. He sent me the link. I basically wrote the prompt saying, hey, can you please build kind of Donkey Kong, but in a Super Mario style? And just pressed enter. And I saw many windows popping up. One window was an AI explaining me what's going to happen right now. A terminal popped up where I saw the code being live written. And then there was an AI screening the code and reporting errors, and another AI fixing the errors. And it's
crazy.
Agentic orchestration, basically. It's a swarm technology. And it took basically 3 minutes. It was 1,200 lines of code. And I was then forwarded to a preview window where I was able to start to play the game. And it was one level, very basic. There were just sounds for grabbing bananas. And then I asked, hey, can we improve that a little bit? Add sounds for jumping, landing, add 2 more levels, change the first level to a jungle style, the second one to a lava level, and the third one to a snow level, and add sounds that fit to that environment. And again, a few minutes later, it took me basically absolute maximum 15 minutes. It was 3.5K lines of code. And literally, I joined the game, finished the first level. The second level was already way harder. And the third level was very hard. I didn't even finish it because there were so many opponents that I couldn't skip or avoid touching them. And yeah, it was just a few days ago. I was surprised. I wasn't aware that we are building that. It came out of nowhere. I was just aware that we are working on the plugins for Unreal to have text to 3D mesh, low poly and high poly inside the engine. But yeah, somehow on a side quest in his free time, he shipped this amazing AI tools. And yeah, so you can connect your GitHub there and publish the code to GitHub. And because right now it's literally very basic. You cannot create like Nintendo 64 games. It's more like the Atari games and the very early Nintendo ecosystem games that's possible to create. And so right now you could publish this code to GitHub and ask Copilot to enhance it. So you could download it, whatever you want. It's all yours once you start developing it.
So you've built a pretty complicated, high production value game, an extraction shooter. How close are we to just replacing all of us? And we just we're all going to get on UBI so we can play our games all day long.
Yeah. So my own developers, they are afraid of AI.
Yeah.
I shared some stuff with them, and they were like, "We don't want to use that. It's going to replace us." But I don't think we will get replaced.
Mm-hmm.
I think we will still need those creative guys, those 3D artists, environment artists, concept artists with their creativity. to tell the AI what to do. They will be basically orchestrating a lot of agents simultaneously to build the stuff. But if we think back 1 year ago, AI was just used for pre-development, basically like storytelling, character arcs, and so on. We have that as well, 6 different small language models that help you with that. But now we are in production, actually. So there's so many tools already which help you basically co-developing the game with you. We're using Microsoft Visual Studio and Copilot. You have access to GPT-5, Grok, Dev, Claude 4, whatever you want. And actually, it increased the development speed of our developers by at least 3 to 4x. Very complex stuff is not yet possible to do just with AI, because you need to understand the full code. And if you have like a few 100,000 lines of code or a few million lines of code, there's no AI that can have the context of everything right now, at least not for consumers as we are. But maybe if you're Elon Musk or Sam Friedman, you have access to different things. But like if you tell the AI, hey, in the gameplay stuff, game modes, please add, I don't know, team deathmatch or capture the flag, it can be done pretty fast. And it can be done automatically. So developing games got already way, way easier. I think this is also why we see the revenue on Steam. The indie studios are matching almost double and AAA games. So people are just shipping more games and faster. And you ask me, when are we going to be replaced? I would say in 5 years latest.
Okay, I'm glad you finally gave us the timeline on that, because what I was going to say when you were talking about how we're going to still need artists, for example, to figure out the aesthetic of a game. Totally agree that, like, in the current state of things, although the AI outputs often look great, they can also be fairly derivative. So if you want to go to designs and aesthetics that people have never seen before, we're still a little bit at the point where you need a human for that. But I don't think that's going to stay the same, right? If you think of like what AI does, it's just this fairly efficient search through a space of possibilities. And right now, the possibility space is somewhat constrained by all of the content that have been ingested into it. But ultimately, the possibility space is going to expand way out. It's going to scale much larger, and we're going to have AIs doing things that would be a lot closer to what we would consider to be like quote unquote human creativity, which I don't think of creativity in this mystical sense either. Like, I just think of creativity as some people are very efficient at finding the solution within a space with lots and lots of hyperparameters in it than others, and we call those people creative because they're good at finding those unique solutions. But the computer will do it fine. Now, on that topic, Zlatko, there was actually a fun little question earlier. Crypto's wondering, what game were you a pro on? Because we might have identified here one of the only things that we'll still be doing in the future, 5-10 years from now. I don't want to watch a computer AI generated character play and win games. I still kind of want to know what a human does in these games, right? Like watching the NPC win, that's going to be boring. Like maybe kids growing up right now, like kids who are babies and they're going to be like 5 or 10 years old, just like they did, just like they have redefined everything in every generation. Maybe they'll have their favorite AI character and that'll be a thing for them. But at least for me, for people that are like us, I think we just want to watch humans compete, whether it's in a game, in a computer game, or like if it's on the soccer field. I don't want to see robots playing robots. Sounds pretty boring to me. But I don't know. What do you think? Is pro sports, is pro video game esports gonna survive? And what was that game that you were a pro in?
So it was very, very early. in the time the Fast and the Furious came out, I was just drag racing. And then Need for Speed Underground came out. I took my pocket money, rode my bike to the store and bought Need for Speed Underground, came back home and was racing all day, all night, and ended up somehow top 20 on the EA servers. And a little bit later, Underground 2 came out, did the same thing, reached top 10 on the EA servers. And in Need for Speed Most Wanted, I finally made it to number 1 in the world. So just a few weeks ago, I downloaded Need for Speed Most Wanted again, just to try if my skills and reactions were still the same as 20 years ago or 17 years ago. I don't remember exactly. And I was able to break my own record after the second race I did. Maybe this is due to the high FPS I have today, because back then I was driving my car with 30 to 40 FPS on the lowest graphics. So the next game I got top 25 in the world was World of Warcraft in PvE.
Wow.
Hearthstone, top 20 world, top 3 Europe. Mobile games like Brawl Stars, I played it from the very beginning. I guess something top 100. Clash Royale as well. When I had time and space from my wife and my family, then I was crushing it. So basically, give me 12 to 15 hours a day, and I'll make it to at least top 100. So that's kind of a skill I have in everything, not just games. I learn very fast. And if I don't know something, I'm looking for people that can teach me that or bring this value. So this is what I learned from basically World of Warcraft. Many people think it was a very addictive game. It was addictive, but it was teaching people a lot of things. Economies, it has farming resources, herbs, whatever, and selling it on the auction house or buying it out from the auction house and selling it for a higher price. It was teaching people economics. And actually, World of Warcraft had already this inflation with gold that we could have learned in the play to earn space. And not only that, but it taught you team dynamics, strategy building, etc., etc. So now to come to your point with AI and esports, it's like we tried AI mirroring already last year. So we ended up having a capture the flag game against AI, and it took us 40 minutes to capture one flag. So I don't think human gamers can beat AI. So I don't think it's fair to compare this, but let's say you can mirror yourself and let it play during you being at work to farm resources. You could chat with your AI companion and say, hey, please farm me weapons, farm XP, whatever. What do you need for the game? So you, instead of paying for bots that are illegal, you could just do it with your AI. I see that happening, and esports in general, it was very low, I would say, in the past few years. Esports were not that big anymore, but look what Saudi Arabia, or better say Riyadh, did in the past year. They poured, I think, 400 million USD in esports. They've run a 7 weeks esports World Cup. So I think it's getting big again. And yeah, competitive games are always fun, I would say. And people will be watching. Look, you don't want to watch robots playing soccer. maybe there are some people that like to bet on this.
Okay, there you go. There's always a human element within that.
Yes.
Although the people who bet the best are probably going to have an AI bot that helps them handicap all of the bets. So it'll just be humans moving their money to an AI is all that will happen at that point. Until the AIs themselves have money, which is starting to happen, and who knows what's going to happen with that. All right, so here we're going to gamify our own code. Code giveaway today because I feel like I just want to gamify even more. So we know all of you code stalkers have shown up. You want that code. You want me to tell you what it is, but I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. You're going to have to work for it today. And I'm going to make it so that as soon as we've had 5 good questions that I post on the channel and ask Zlatko to answer, soon as there's 5 of them, then I'm going to give that code away right away. And you don't know how many questions have been asked already. So you better just start asking the questions. I can see the questions. I've got this little side panel that shows me all the questions, and then I choose. Okay. So you don't know. Maybe there's already 3, maybe there's 500. You don't know. But we're gonna experiment with this. But ask a good question, and when I have gotten through 5 of them, we're gonna count it. Now I'm gonna give credit for questions that have already been asked. It's only the ones that I feature. So I'm going to ask the follow-up question that Crypto also had to his original question, where we talked about your experience in professional gaming. And that's this one right here, which is we're going back to AI and what it can do, what it can't do. And we all know that AI does everything eventually. So we're not talking about forever laws because we don't know of any law of physics that prevents AI from just doing absolutely everything. But at least for like right now in the near term, I think crypto is right, which is you wouldn't want to tell your AI to build you a back end because the risk of a centralized flaw, for example, he gives security, but it could be a lot of things. It could be security, scalability, just something cheatable. Like that one flaw on the back end means that every player, 1 million players, 10 million players, 100 million players all get affected by the one bug. Whereas if it's a front end bug, okay, affects one person at a time. So I think he's right that we're not at that stage where you trust AI enough for super expensive risks. But I guess the question we could talk about around that, though, is like, well, first of all, if you don't agree with that, talk about it. But I think the interesting thing is, well, then how do we integrate backends? How do we integrate things like multiplayer persistence or into this idea of vibe coding, creating games? So Beamable has our own thoughts on this because this is something we've actively been doing some R&D in. But what are your thoughts, Zlatko?
So I agree with the security flaws. You still need to supervise everything and double and triple check what is done. But then on the other end, I'm receiving emails from security audit providers telling me, hey, we have now an AI audit tool that's usable and will find security issues. We haven't tried it yet, but I got it from 3 or 4 different audit providers. So I think today maybe I would not let an AI build my backend right now, but look where we are just in a few years in terms of AI. Where will we be in another 2 or 3 years? Where will we be in 1 year? If you look at, I don't know, Grok from xAI, and compare it to ChatGPT from OpenAI, they had a head start of 4, 5, 6 years, I think. And Grok just catched up so fast. And it's the competition out there, one AI feeding from the other one. You could put them together and they could talk forever, develop their own languages, whatever. And I don't know, kind of scary as well. And in terms of, hey, what a robot or an AI is capable of, I was so shocked 2 days ago. A friend sent me a video. In China was a robot developed that can give birth to a baby, and carried with the robot can carry the baby for 9 months or 10 months and give natural birth to it. And if I think about that, what's a backend compared to a human life?
Yeah, well, there's a good example of centralized risk that you wouldn't
Jesus
right away. Okay.
Well, can I just one thing to
save us?
Sorry,
Oscar.
just
bring some sanity.
No, not at all. Crypto.
About
just
robot wombs. All of a sudden.
That was in System Shock 2. Yeah, System Shock 2. I think that you can't trust AI to do anything explicitly any more than you can trust a outsourced solution provider or yourself without having, a series of checks and balances and revisions just to make sure that you are actually working from a place of safety. Human solution providers screw everything up too, so this is not intrinsic to AI. AI will make a perfectly functional thing that uses some compromised library and things get messed up. Human developers do that all the time. That's why you see everything get, that's why you always hear about things getting screwed up with leaks. And this is not AI specific. You need to use the exact same scrutiny, level of detail, attention, and quality assurance that you would with a junior developer or an outsourcing solution provider or yourself. But I agree with you, Crypto. It's just that it's very easy to fall in love with things that seem to work automatically, but you can pay somebody in Costa Rica or Eastern Europe, go to Belarus. You can pay someone to get you software. It may not work. It may be compromised. It may be compromised on purpose. So again, it's not AI specific. You just have to do diligence, I think.
So Gnome, and that's question 2 out of 5 here. So keep them coming. You're not getting the code today till we have 5 out of 5. FYI, gonna make you work. Gonna make you really work for it today. Gnome is asking how we can make our games get more reach if they use vibe coding. Is there a platform that essentially aggregates them together? There are platforms that are trying to aggregate vibe coded games, so certainly that's a thing. Talk about that a little bit, Zlatko. How do we combine the coding aspect with just getting it in the hands? And then I have some really specific thoughts myself, but I want to give you the first run at this question.
So, yeah, it's the hardest part, I would say, of getting games to market is you need to build a community. You need to build a great game. For that, you can have the best game in the world. If you don't have players, no one will know it. But if you have a massive player base and your game is not sticky, you're still not have the players inside the game. So how to reach more people with vibe coding? First of all, we're building our own platform where you will be able to launch games on our platform. You will be able to post directly to X or other social media accounts and share your stuff, invite your friends to participate in your game. This is one thing, but yeah, every day thousands of vibe coding games are coming. Yeah, I would say try to leverage your own friends, your own network, partner with the right people, partner with Jon. He's all over the place. Get on his podcast. You'll reach a lot of people. No, just joking a little bit. It's the hard part. We are thinking ourselves how to reach the most people. And one thing is paying or partnering with influencers to promote your game or get them very early in to give feedback on your game and promote it in that way because they will play it on the stream. And of course, platforms, Epic Games, Steam, paying for ads, it's hard. Organic growth is very hard. You need to pay a little bit at least for marketing and ads. And yeah, hard topic.
Mm-hmm. So one of the ways we're just to kind of roll back a little bit for a moment, and then we're gonna bring it down. And I see the questions are starting to come in, so we're putting you guys to work today. You're asking the questions. I think this gamifying thing might have something to it. What do you think, Oscar? Should we gamify more?
I think we should integrate all sorts of integrations.
Yeah, there. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the approach Beamable is taking, by the way, on this whole idea of the security of the back end, the need to scale, is that's what we have. Now we're building an open infrastructure so that you can just build on top of it. And to us, vibe coding is a new layer that can exist on top of our infrastructure, so that when you go into a vibe coding interface, why not just have all of the knowledge of Beamable primitives and API calls present there already, so that your game launches with chat and tournaments and events and user registration and identity and inventory systems and data persistence and all that stuff. We have that, and it's easy and it's scalable in our platform. And by the way, when I talk about it doing it, it's not like Beamable has to have the exclusive. It's not like the Beamable version of vibe coding is our approach. We may give a demo of that, but like just open it up, let anybody riff off of that and incorporate it into their vibe coding platform. So we would love to supercharge all the vibe coding stuff out there with more things that give you these things that would be super hard if you thought you tell your vibe coding platform to build it for you. But when it leverages the inherent composability of the tech that we're offering, that's what gets you to multiplayer game, persistent games, MMO experiences a lot more rapidly. All right, so there's some other questions here coming along. So Harold is asking, are there plans to integrate technologies like NFTs or decentralized economies in a way that doesn't disrupt the core gameplay? The conversation I've been having about NFTs for the last 5 years.
The word that shall not be spoken.
Yeah. So let's shift off vibe coding for a moment and come back to this. But what's your thoughts here? I mean, I think the question basically being asked is, when you have a player-traded economy, does it fundamentally disrupt the game experience because it financializes it? I think is what he's maybe getting to.
Yeah. So it depends. Like if you build a game around an economy like we did in the 2020, 2021 with play to earn, it will have a massive impact on the gameplay experience. If you invest into a token that is used for upgrading stuff in your game, that's going to be a problem at the point. Especially if you earn tokens and then sell it or whatever, the early contributors to a game will have a massive loss, as we experienced in the past few years, I would say. But if you look at World of Warcraft, there were people selling carry slots, like we were doing it as well. We just needed like 21 people to finish a 25-man raid. So we had 4 people or 5 people joining the raid. They can stay wherever they want. We just run through the raid and they get the loot. They paid for that. So that was already there 20 years ago or 18 years ago. If you look at Counter-Strike, the gray market, the
skins,
the lottery, does it impact the gameplay experience? I don't think so. The game is still fun. People still play it. So I think with NFTs, that's the idea about the NFTs. You enable the people to own their assets. So you don't need to call it NFT. I think that was also a big mistake for Web3 gaming.
Yeah, we got to fire the chief marketing officer of Web3. Whoever they are, we got to dox you and get you fired, because you are not helping anybody with some of these terms. But okay, so just a thought on that though. Like I think the issue is that you have to build games fundamentally on open trading economies, and then the kind of game you have is also a different sort of game. It's not about just taking existing game designs like a World of Warcraft that had all the gray markets and black markets around gold selling and basically eBaying items and things like that. Like that happens for some number of those users, but World of Warcraft wasn't really designed with that in mind. Therefore, they had to create all kinds of mechanisms to prevent it, and then essentially a mini police state trying to prevent people from doing it. But you could look at Magic the Gathering, for example, which is not even a digital game originally anyway. And Magic the Gathering was designed with the idea that, of course, all the players are going to trade cards, and therefore deck building was going to be the thing that really was based on the fact that people were trading. And then deck building was this creative thing that everybody engaged in that determined the competition. So to me, you get a different set of games than you would have had otherwise if the designers think of the open trading economy as inherent. You've played some of these games. Yeah, I mean, you played all these games. You played Hearthstone professionally, which is sort of like almost the same thing, just in a closed environment.
Yes, it is. The thing why I think it's important to have these games decentralized and NFTs and the ownership. Let's say it happened to me as well in Unreal Tournament. I had so many headshots that I was reported by so many players, and finally I got banned because I was using an aimbot, which I wasn't. So you lose your progress, you lose everything when you get banned, and you lose thousands of hours probably. So let's say you cheat in a game. Let's say you cheat in a game. Should you be punished that hard that let's say you spend $1,000 on your game and you spend thousands of hours and you cheated because you wanted to catch up, you were sick, you had to travel because of work, and then you took a little advantage and now you're punished losing your account. Make it at least accessible to trade the assets, sell to someone, or create a new account and transfer it to you because you paid for it. I don't know, like if you go to a supermarket, you buy or you buy a car, or I don't know, whatever you buy, and then you go and you steal one chewing gum, and now you're losing your car because you stole the chewing gum. That doesn't make sense at all. So the NFTs, let's call it, you own the assets in the game. You should own it forever.
All right, let's go back to vibe coding and AI here, because I know that's a lot of what you also want to be able to talk to, Zlatko. I'm going to throw this all caps message from Sukuna right on the screen here. He's yelling it loud, so this is important. Do you think the future of gaming will become hologram? I think he means holodeck. I'm gonna just say I think he means holodeck, not just hologram, although you could kind of see the two going together. And does Beamable also aim for that kind of game in the future? I'll give you the Beamable thought in a moment, but do you think that's where we're going to go? Are we going to have the holodeck? You know what I'm talking about? The thing from Star Trek where they just speak worlds into existence?
Yes, I know what you're talking about and what the question is about. I think if you look at Meta, you look at Apple, all this virtual and augmented reality experiences, they're a step into that. So I think holograms will become a thing in the future, definitely. I don't know how fast, especially in gaming, because the reactions on a mouse and on a keyboard are faster than you running around with a weapon in your hand and turning. So if everyone joins this hologram stuff and augmented reality, then of course there will be no disadvantage for people if you're using a mouse. But I see it potentially being part of gaming in the future, but not in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Well, again, we're talking about timelines, we're talking about possibility spaces more than timelines. But yeah, it's probably kind of complicated. But Sakuno is asking kind of does Beamable aim for that? And I guess, what do I think of it? I'll just share a couple of things. That emergence of the holodeck, literally a talk that I gave at Gamescom last year. And here's another one that you can check out if you're interested after this. Let's see. I should never try to do this. I should absolutely never do this. Trying to add things.
You should have sent it to me ahead of time.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know this was going to come up. This is the great thing about this, is now that we gamified the questions, people are going to come up with more questions, and therefore the standard deviation of the question set is going to expand, and therefore we're going to talk about new subjects.
I think that if you want to play it out, it's going to be a lot closer than. Think about how they do the Mandalorian with Unreal, and they do like the volumetric projection. So imagine eye tracking and volumetric projection. Imagine going to do the holodeck at Disney as opposed to doing the holodeck at home. Think about it more as like that immersive experience you would go to like a theme park to do. But I'd say holodeck in terms of like Mr. Data wants to go be Sherlock Holmes, and then like it spawns that within the next 7 to 10 years, but maybe closer to 3 to 5. If someone, I'd say, within 5 years.
On this, we're gonna. I can sense that we're gonna do an over/under on the holodeck. When does it happen? I wrote an article on this a little over 2 years ago. So this very question, I called it the direct from imagination era, has begun, and just search for those words online. I think you'll find me, especially if you add my name in. But I wrote this to talk about all of the things, and there we go, ChatGPT as a virtual engine that could create game experiences. And this is the art that was possible 2.5 years ago. Obviously, it's gotten a lot better since then. We talked about all these things that you have to do to build a virtual world. There's a hell of a lot of little components that you have to make. So many of those are automated today. Anyway, this is a really super cool article, I think, that I wrote.
What was the title of the article again?
The direct from imagination era has begun. And it talks about the holodeck, because when I was a kid, I wanted the holodeck. So that's why I became a game developer, because I wanted to build the holodeck. And then I realized that you have to create an awful lot of technology to get there. And that's why I'm doing Beamable, because Beamable is going to be a foundational piece of the multiplayer, multi-user interactive parts of what we're going to need for a holodeck. Because, of course, you can do more than the holodeck. It's sort of holodeck plus metaverse, right? It's holodeck, but multiplayer as if you had all the holodecks interconnected with each other, and people could play together across space and even time, right? So that's another role for AI. When you have AI, you can simulate a lot of what happens in those periods of latency. So a big problem with multiplayer coordination is speed of light is still a problem if you need people to actually participate in real time, which is why we favor like high-speed gaming has to be close to each other on LANs and stuff like that. And for a lot of competitive games, of course, like tournament style games, that would have to remain the case. But there's ways you can leverage AI to just predict and then simulate what the other players are doing, and then monitor the difference between what it simulated and what the player actually did, converge towards that set of probabilities over time. Eventually, you just have the AIs feeding what the players are doing and just getting super good at predicting it, so that you, the player sitting there, actually have a real-time experience with everybody else. And every other player in that multiplayer experience is also having a real-time experience. So there's so many cool things that we're going to do with AI and prediction and weaving together time and space. But it's ultimately speaking worlds into existence, right? You got to be able to just prompt, and that's what Star Trek did. Star Trek literally showed us prompting. Look up any episode of Star Trek that involved the holodeck, and unless they were already in the holodeck in the beginning, which is a couple of episodes, you'll see them go in. And in a couple of episodes that I can remember, they're even like, nah, not quite, like fix this piece. Guess what? That was vibe coding. We just didn't call it then. It's amazing how many things Star Trek actually predicted. I mean, side comment, probably one of the most fun things I got to do in my life was actually make a Star Trek game because I love the universe. But like between cell phones and iPads and holodecks, Roddenberry saw a lot of it coming. So yes is the answer. That's why we're all doing this. What other questions we got, Oscar? That was 4 out of 5. You gotta look through here. Why don't you tee it up? I'm tired of doing the work here and pulling it up.
Let's see. What's a good one here? Well, here's one for you, John.
And we're gonna have to give
Beamable built
out after this, right? Because I gamified it. Now we have to give the reward. Okay.
Yeah, I almost want to like not count this one because Crypto's been asking all the questions, but
we can't change the rules.
Now it's too late. Is Beamable built for small studios, or are you just planning to, like sneak it in there with all the AAAs? Like, what's that staged for? Like, who is Beamable for as a developer?
Well, first of all, it's for everybody, but certainly core to the vision is democratizing this entire business. Last year, there's 19,000 games on Steam. Some of them are extremely innovative, very different, new ideas. Mostly they're derivative or just slight versions of another product. I want to see more innovation out there, and allowing people to innovate means letting them focus on creativity and the ideas, not the technology. So one of the most complicated things to add to your game is all this technology infrastructure to help you scale, have multiplayer, have data persistence, have massively multiplayer online worlds. So we wanted to get rid of that impediment so that even if you're like one solo dev, you would have access to those kind of resources. So 100%, we're trying to democratize this entire business so that absolutely everybody who's got a dream or an idea for a game, you can just sit down with Beamable and have all that infrastructure present. So it's kind of like doing so a parallel example is 3D engines. So once upon a time, it was super hard to build a 3D graphics game. You'd have to know matrix math and quaternions and shader programming and all kinds of weird stuff that if you know it today is occasionally still useful, but not like it used to be, because today you use Unreal Engine or Unity. So that democratized a huge part of the game business, right? Almost all games now are 3D graphics engines. Even if they present in 2D, they're still using 3D graphics engines. So with Beamable, we wanted to democratize that other part of the business, which is all of the server and cloud and tech and things like that to enable. So I think what we're now going to be seeing is a wave of development and innovation where the team is just really creative. They're the innovators. AI will help with that too, because you can rapidly prototype and iterate. So I'm eager to see that happen. There was an earlier question that's almost sort of related to this, which is it was a question around the subject of discovery. Like, are we going to see so many things that are vibe coded that, well, they didn't pose it as discovery. They kind of were like,
no.
Is the market going to get worse? Basically, are we going to get the total enshittification of the internet because everyone's just vibe coding crap and it's out there and you can't find anything else? Yeah,
I think this was the comment.
Good discovery features that also use AI so that the game you find is something that is exactly what you wanted.
I think there's also like a sense of, I don't want to say entitlement or superiority, but vibe coding in the same way that when Unity came on, when the Unity Asset Store made asset flips a thing, and then suddenly everyone was like all pissed off at the Unity logo being at the beginning of their game or be at the beginning of a game, and they'd be like, oh, it's a Unity game, fuck that shit. I think that anything that eases access to a wide array of people, in one sense, it may make the programmer feel less important, but it expands that the number of participants that can make games. So there will be a 5 to 10-fold, maybe even 100-fold of games that come online in the next 5 years on Steam, for example. But as vibe coding quality, as people getting a sense of what works and what doesn't, by being able to actually make things and then like tweak and tune things.
And that it's another tool that people gain more expertise in, I think is what you're saying. That makes sense.
Yeah, basically.
All right,
Yeah.
we got to get out of code though, because the audience earned the code. And this is why, if you're watching this in replay, join us next time so you can earn codes and participate and ask questions and be part of this. Like, this is a community activity. This isn't just about making videos we can post for views later. So that said, if you're watching it in replay, we love you too. We would just love you to be part of the live audience next time. All right, so we got to give out that code. The code today is EPIC. EPIC, epic. Really straightforward. You got 2 minutes. You got to go to the Beamable Discord, type /claim, okay? And then you put in the code EPIC, EPIC. All right, that's the code. Now, Zlatko, I want to move it back to you. So I kind of ran with this whole holodeck thing and vision and stuff. I want to hear more about your vision for these things, though, too. So you got into Vibe. I mean, you started as building games, extraction shooter. Now you have vibe coding. Where does this go? Like, how does this fit into the big picture of what you're building? I talked about, holodeck and what I hope we eventually get to. What are you trying to accomplish here?
So my vision as a kid games were my life, and I was like, I want to be part of a game company or build my own game one day. And I started building finally my own game. And then I was like, maybe we should make everyone the possibility available to build their own game. And my vision is time horizon. I don't know how fast AGI will come and how fast we will develop in AI, but let's say in 5 to 10 years, if you're very creative, you mentioned problem solving, we call those people creative, yes. Let's say you come to the Lussa AI and say, hey, I want to build a game in Unreal Engine 7.4. In the future then, it's a MMORPG playing in a medieval setting. There are monsters. There was a meteor strike on Earth and an alien landed on Earth infecting other people, and you start with such kind of setting. And you press just enter, and then a swarm of different agents start generating this. One agent will ask you, hey, give me information about how big the world is, what the maps should look like. Should I do it myself, or do you want to provide me with that? Another AI will start developing those assets for the environment. Another one, the characters, the monsters. Another one, the abilities. So it will be just a huge agentic swarm working simultaneously on different tasks, writing code, generating assets, rigging assets, texturing them, UV mapping, everything done by AI. This is like where I see the gaming or games development heading to in the next decade.
Mm-hmm. So Suman is asking a question here. He's just kind of worried that like AI is going to make games more boring, I think is what he's getting into, and that they're going to be so optimized that they're going to lack the messiness of our current game development processes. What do you think? Are we just optimizing ourselves into a dopamine loop and then?
No, I don't think that will happen. So how I see that, he's right, Web2 made games social. AI is making them adaptive. So I think AI will, especially NPCs, will contribute a lot to a very immersive experience in gaming. For example, in MMORPGs. Let's say I always love to refer World of Warcraft because I played it for thousands of hours. Let's say you pick Night Elf and start every time in the same beginning, starting place, and you go through that, and it gets boring. You play always the same thing. Now, if there's AI tracking in the game, they see, okay, you played this race already. you play this class already. I'll give you now different starting point, different quests, different interaction with the NPCs. So every time a different user experience. So another reference, No Man's Sky. It's a never-ending game. Always new planets are coming. Imagine adding AI to that. The AI will start building and searching for those planets, building empires on those planets and interacting with each other. What if they someday become conscious and ask, hey, who created us? How did we get here? It can happen. And if you look at ChatGPT, you mentioned soulless experience. Personalize your own ChatGPT. If you are like believing in you have a soul, there's God, there's something bigger than us, go to ChatGPT and personalize it on your beliefs, and you will be very surprised how soulful this AI can be.
Yeah. It kind of almost connects to the point that I was going to bring in here with this. I'm really pimping my old articles today. This is another article I think I wrote well over a year ago. I wrote it close to a Gamescom talk I gave actually a couple years ago. So it's called Artificial Intelligence and the Search for Creativity, which we have on the screen right now. So the reason I'm bringing it in is sort of the assumption that was built into that last question was that AI causes less creativity because it's over optimized and it has more boring experiences because it's just drawn from all of the stuff that we already have out on the internet. So I don't think that's quite right, because there's so many additional inputs to the creative process that can affect just how emergent the outputs are. So emergence is this idea that with a very small number of inputs that get shaped a certain way early in development, you can get very, very different outcomes, right? So I just want to blow everyone's mind for a second, because some people just don't know some of these facts. But we'll start with the game of life, okay? So the game of life is, a lot of people have seen it. You can search for it online. Game of Life will let you throw down a few pixels on the screen and it'll create like living beings and different forms and patterns, and you can just see what it does. But the really cool thing is, did you know that someone figured out how to create an entire Turing complete computational system in the Game of Life? So it turns out if you just lay out the pixels right, you can build a computer in the Game of Life that can run any program, literally any program. Not fast, but if you have a Turing complete computer, by definition, that means it can run any program. So in this little game that only has like 2, 3, 4 basic rules in it, someone figured out how to build a computer. So that's kind of cool. We talked about World of Warcraft. We talk about the corrupted. Were you around during the corrupted blood incident?
Of course, who wasn't?
So this is emergent gameplay. So for people who aren't familiar with corrupted blood, they had this, I don't know if it was caused by a feature or a bug that they just didn't anticipate, but people could spread this disease to each other that they got in a boss fight, and then they carry it around. And if you took it into a city and you went to like Orgrimmar or something and you like touched people where it was like tons of people in the concentrated areas, everyone would just die. It would just spread everywhere. So it's kind of funny for a little bit. But they didn't think of that. The reason it happened was because the players came up with like what wacky things they would do with it. So emergence again here happens not because you've got this ability to create a computer like in the Game of Life, but you've got new kinds of gameplay because there's a social element where the players are actually introducing a huge set of variations in the game rule. There's the guy who built an entire artificial intelligence system inside Minecraft. So just like you can build a whole computer inside the Game of Life, there are people who have built entire computers and GPUs inside Minecraft. And then inside those GPUs have implemented neural networks that have done things like handwriting recognition. Again, not the fastest AI in the world, but you can literally create a handwriting recognition neural network in World of Minecraft, nothing more than redstone, right? So this is insane. So, why does this stuff matter? I don't know. I'm not going to take you through the rest of the article right now. Check out my article. It's one of my favorite articles that I've written, and I've given talks even at MIT on this very subject. And the basic bottom line here is when you have a lot of really interesting inputs that introduce new forms of noise or new kinds of directions that were not expected by the internals of the system, you can create really interesting results. So Game of Life, I don't think the developer of the Game of Life knew that he was creating a platform for the implementation of Turing complete computation, but the people playing with it on the outside figured out that they could do it that. And I don't think Notch envisioned running neural network. I just don't like Notch. If you're watching now and you have a different opinion here, get on and tell us how you saw it all coming. But I bet he didn't see running handwriting recognition neural nets in Minecraft when he first started making it early on. And just like Corrupted Blood didn't necessarily envision all the things that players would do with that. So we, the players, inject a lot of behaviors and iterations on these core game systems so that even with AI doing these optimizations and stuff, as long as humans are in the loop, I want to footnote that for now, 10 years from now, AIs may be super intelligence that surpass humans and do this emergent creativity even better than us. I don't discount that potential, although I think it will take a lot of energy. Energy will be the bottleneck, by the way, whole other topic. But human social interaction and the interaction through the porous interfaces of various technologies is what creates all these wacky new things that we didn't envision. So I'm not worried about like games getting boring. Games are going to get fucking cool. And we are all lucky to be alive at this time.
There's going to be a lot more games.
We're slightly over time. It's been a fun conversation. I feel like we covered a lot of ground in this one.
We did definitely. It doesn't felt like an hour.
Never does.
Always love to speak with like-minded people about any stuff out there. And yeah, thanks everyone for the great questions. Some of them were hard for me as I'm not the biggest marketing guy. So, but pleasure, always learning. And thanks for having me again, Jon. Always happy to join again. And also looking forward to meet you in a few weeks. And yeah, thanks everyone for having me.
That'd be a blast. And I'm just going to close out Jeremy's question here, which is really about how do we kind of know what's going on inside the AI. Super interesting topic. Jeremy, maybe you should join us for this topic, since, as you say, you have the job of breaking that shit. No, I think understandability of AI, and actually that's a hugely interesting field. It's sort of like the cognitive neuroscience of AI systems, and super, super interesting stuff. But we've covered enough for today, unfortunately, so we're going to have to come back to that another day. Zlatko, thank you so much for showing up on the program for the second time, and good luck with everything you're doing on Vibe Coding. Sounds really exciting. Glad to have game developers that also have been real game players trying to figure out how all this stuff fits together and how we give ourselves a lot more fun things to do in that future where we don't do work anymore because AI does everything and all we have to do now is play games. I think that's what we're all building here. All right, until next time, everybody, this has been a blast of a stream. Show up next time. Tomorrow, we've got a really, really interesting one that I would be remiss if I didn't mention it now. But at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, the CEO of Helium, probably the biggest DePIN project out there, at least the most storied one with a lot of history behind it. Helium is this platform where it's a DePIN for wireless networks. So you can run these wireless nodes. People can connect to it. You get paid if you operate these nodes. So that's going to be the topic tomorrow. I'm really delighted to talk to one of the truly epic founders within the DePIN market. And that's going to be tomorrow's subject at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. So do not miss it. Zlatko, again, thank you so much for being here. This has been a blast. I suspect you'll be back on a third time down the road, and we want to hear how you've built the holodeck by then.
Definitely. Thanks again for having me. Wish you all the best, John, and see you in a few weeks.